welcome back to the what, Hannah? Don't do that.
Did you just start a podcast with ho?
Yeah, it's Christmas.
Oh, you're not meant to make me laugh in the first 30 seconds, Ash.
Well, welcome back to the Marketing for Learning podcast, folks. As you know, it is the holidays, and we're here recording our final podcast of the season, the year 2024. It's been a year, and yeah, we're just gonna kind of reflect on the year, look at some things that we've done, talked a bit more about some of the things that we've overcome with our clients, and just really kind of, well, hopefully have a bit of fun along the way and make Hannah laugh in the first 3 seconds of the podcast.
I
You're
just
welcome.
wasn't
Hey, Han.
expecting it.
I know I like to do that though. Every time we do a podcast together, I always put you off right away.
Yeah, you do. It's fun.
Keeps you on your toes. Are you all right?
I'm all good. Thank you, Ash. How are you?
Yes, just on Christmas countdown now. Max is nearly 4, isn't he? So this is like the first
Aw.
Christmas that he's gonna kind of get it. Like Santa's elves are here and they're
Yeah.
tinkering around with things. And
Has he got
that's what it
over the
feels.
fact that Elfie drunk Daddy's beer last week?
It wasn't
That was
impressive.
a
Like
fun
they are cheeky. They are cheeky elves. So
time.
we've had the elves have brought him like a festive dinosaur because he's obsessed with dinosaurs. So now that's like it's quite big. I'll send you a photo of it, but like he's like dragging that around the house.
Aw.
And I was like, oh, he was getting a bit cross with him. They were playing Xbox. He plays Xbox with Phil, and he was a bit upset that they were playing Xbox without him, and they were on his tablet one day. And so I said to Phil, maybe they need to be a bit nicer.
Yeah, maybe we don't want to
Yeah.
upset the 4-year-old.
So they brought a dinosaur and some candy canes last night. So
Aw.
they must
Bless
have got
him.
the memo that it's maybe time to be nice to the
Time to be a bit
toddler. So
nicer. And also, while we're talking about the elves, we've got to give a shout out to the lady that tagged us on LinkedIn
yes,
with the mass socks on the Christmas tree because the naughty elves had put them there. I love it. I
I was like,
absolutely,
those are straight up from Santa.
yeah, love it. Honestly, can't believe mass and the pineapples have even infiltrated people's Christmases.
That's right. I mean, to be honest, it's astonishing that our entire Christmases aren't just pineapples, really. You sent me the
Who
pineapple.
says it's not?
Touche. Touche. I
You
stand
haven't seen my
corrected.
Christmas tree this year.
My Christmas is sponsored by Del Monte. There we go. Should we get them if we ever do a mass event? Should we get Del Monte to sponsor?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, I think they'd do that. That's for sure.
I'm sure
So let's I mean, as much as I'm sure everybody listening loves talking shit, because it's why would you listen to this podcast if you if you wouldn't tune in for this wonderful dribble? I was thinking maybe somewhere we could start with reflections of the year is personal highlights. I know what you would say, what's been your personal highlight for the year, but you can answer that as well. But what would you say has been your personal highlight of 2024, but also like your professional highlight?
Can I tell you a funny story? I got in trouble the other day. So
Oh
for
no.
those listening that I don't know must have been under a rock at some point, got married in April.
You did not.
I did.
You got
Which was
married.
obviously the best day ever. Like it was perfect. It honestly best day ever. I could still talk about it till I'm blue in the face. But last Sunday, I went on a night out with my friend, and it was to a gig, I could probably call it that, by someone called James Partridge. And for those of you that don't know, James Partridge does this thing called primary school bangers. And here in the UK, we've got quite a culture of hymns, essentially, church hymns that we all used to sing in primary schools. Whether you went to a religious school or not, we'd all sing them. And we love them. And he's gone on tour. So I was in a room with about 500 millennials singing primary school hymns on the top of my voice. I loved it. I told my husband it was the best day of the year and got in a little bit of trouble because evidently we got married this year. And apparently I'm not allowed to say a gig was better than my wedding. But obviously,
What if it was?
oh, no, honestly, it was so much fun. I had the best night. And if like anyone in the UK is listening that went to a UK primary school, look up James Partridge. It will be pure nostalgia for you. But obviously, my personal highlight was the wedding. Like,
Sure.
absolutely. Like, obviously, can't squabble with that. What about you though, Ash?
It's been a unique year. I had a baby and also got married. So I
We
would
should
I'll
also
just like
disclaim we didn't get married to each other.
no. The year of the two weddings and a baby. I mean, the wedding was absolutely gorgeous, but Ellie finding out I had a daughter because we didn't know we were having a girl. And so that's been wonderful. It's obviously very challenging having a newborn, and especially you'll know I'm starting to kind of come back a bit, and it's just hard to find that balance. But you get there. It was the same with Max. Like you can't find your feet for a while, and then it's okay. But that we're very lucky. I think
Yeah.
we've got three lovely kids now, and sometimes I don't understand when I was like buying all the Christmas presents. Like, why do I have three kids? What happened? What's going on? What have I done? But yeah, I mean, obviously Ellie coming on the scene was definitely the highlight.
And she is just
June
the most
17th.
gorgeous, squishy baby ever. I just
Oh my God. Well, I told you I got her passport and the passport photo is incredible.
so cute.
Yeah,
So
she's super
cute.
cute. So yeah, so that was definitely my personal highlight. Professional for me is a little bit more difficult, I suppose, because obviously I have been on mat leave since May, really, haven't I?
Mm.
Which has been a gorgeous time to be able to, well, June, I guess, end of May. It depends how
Yeah.
pedantic you're being. So but for half the year, obviously, I haven't really been contributing to the work life situation. But I mean, I think the thing that I continue to be wowed or bowled over with, I guess, is where the industry is now in terms of recognizing marketing and its importance to maybe where it was before we launched Mass in 2019. I think it's part of the narrative now. And like we were saying earlier, in many cases, people still perceive it as quite redundant or superfluous, like it's not an easy investment doing marketing on top of all
Mm.
of your Learn Tech and learning program investments. But those that are doing it are getting significant results. Like,
Yeah.
look at Capgemini and the award that you guys, from the work that you guys did
Yeah.
together. Like, that must be a good highlight for you, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting though. That project was the end of last year. So as much as
Yeah.
we won the awards for it this year and we've got the impact for it this year, when I was thinking as you asked that question a second ago, I was like, what was the highlight? And I'm going through everything and Capgemini never came into my mind, which is
Yeah, because you
insane.
didn't really do them this year. Yeah.
It's insane that
Man,
we've
isn't
got
it?
that much impact and that many things to be proud of that winning an award for getting 280,000 people upskilled on Gen AI didn't cross my mind. Like, it's a bit of a pinch me moment of like, wow, like we've done so much. And the feedback that we get from the training offering, every single
Mm,
cohort always fills me with joy. And I think I'm there with you that the change in the industry, that people are talking about this, people are coming to us more and more. Like we've had exhibitions get in touch with us just this week, being like, we need you involved because the conversation of marketing for learning is happening now,
mm.
which is it's incredible. I love it. And like you said, we've had the conversation just this morning of some people still see it as a nice to have, but those of you that know it has an impact, just keep fighting the good fight. Like I know that there's so many people that we know that would love to come and do a massive project with us, and they've still got naysayers as stakeholders. But that's okay.
Mm.
We can start small. Like I think both you and I genuinely see the impact of marketing for learning on the L&D space. And
Yeah, for
however
sure.
you do it, whether you're doing it on your own DIY, using our guides and resources, whether you're coming on our training or whether you're coming to us for a full-blown project, we love it. It genuinely fills me with joy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the transformation, the journey that people go on, whether it's through the kind of strategic marketing program that we've got, or like, I don't know, some of the bigger projects we've done where we've doing like full scale campaigns and therefore we do intense discovery and persona work and stuff like you see the progress that people make in terms of how this is prioritized. I mean, a company that I did again probably last year now, I did a closed masterclass with, and off the back of that, like they genuinely restructured their learning function. They added a permanent marketing person into that mix. And like you could just about halfway through the course, there's so much pushback initially. We were like digging into their personas, and I was like, look, these don't work and let's talk about why. And they were like, yeah, but we need to know about their training requirements. Like you do for learning,
Yeah.
but not for marketing. So that's the product. That's not what we're doing to influence them. So, I think as you were talking as well, I thought, oh, I wonder if it will ever move off the bottom spot of the LPI capability map. Who knows? You
Well,
never
they've
know.
relaunched their capability thing today. That appeared in my inbox, and yeah,
Interesting.
marketing's still there. Pretends to be
Cool.
shocked.
Cool, 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 cool. Yes. Well, just ignore everything we've said because clearly,
Yeah. Look,
no, no.
it is finally. I was writing something yesterday, and I think, and I know people might be listening to this thinking, of course you'd say that, Han, you work for mass. But I think we've been trying to find, as an industry, a solution for these engagement problems for decades. And I think marketing is finally that solution that people will go, oh, this works.
Yeah, yeah. It's a tried and
So,
tested approach as you're just applying it
yeah.
to a different product. Like it's
And
not.
we've only, I know we're like, oh my God, we're 5 years old, but we've only been going for 5 years. And it's a drop in the ocean compared to all of the L&D professionals we need to get on board and like get them to join this train of like actually changing engagement once and for all. But we're making progress year in, year out. And I'm loving how many people are coming up to me, especially like I was at World of Learning this year and people were like, I'd never thought about marketing until this year. And I saw some of your stuff. I saw your pineapples. The amount of comments on the pineapples will never, ever be lost on me. I love it. But people are now going, oh, why didn't I think of this? Why
Yeah,
haven't I done this? And just that shift, it's phenomenal to me. It makes me so happy.
yeah. It seems so obvious, really, doesn't
Mm.
it? Like I think that's why I started mass because I was like, people aren't doing that.
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand. Like it's
And
bewildering, but
what I like though, Ash, is that I think obviously like I joined 6 months into mass and I was like, wait, that of course, this makes sense. I've been thinking this while I was sat in a head of marketing role. And a lot of marketers got it. The
mm,
marketers really understood what we were doing. L&D didn't. And now I'm starting to have conversations with L&D professionals that are going, that makes so much sense. Why aren't we doing that? So that needle was shifted as well. It's not just marketers and comms people that understand what we're doing here. L&D is starting to go, wait, yeah, that makes sense. Is it?
yeah. Oh, actually, we do need to find out what our audience wants and needs before we build products for them and then try and market it to them. Oh,
Wow.
what a sensationalist sentiment.
Yeah. And look,
But that
I'm
is
not
that is the
saying
truth.
the whole industry is there.
Oh no,
I
not
have
at all. But
conversations.
I do think that there is, I have definitely done discovery where employees have said, this is the first time I've ever spoken to anyone that represents L&D. And that needs to change, not even just from a marketing perspective, but like we should be really like your podcast last week. We should be just eating, sleeping, breathing our audience. Are we building our products to meet their needs? Like,
Yeah.
it's not about if you want to achieve the business goals, then you've got to meet your audience's wants and needs and desires with the business goals in mind. But
Yeah.
like that's not going to be the motivator. So
And also choosing our tech and things like that. So unsurprisingly, because last week's podcast was about 2025 trends, AI was in there. And I'm using AI more and more often now, just in my day-to-day life. And I really do see the benefits of it. But use it with your audience in mind. Don't just create loads of content because ChatGPT makes it easy. Is that going to benefit your audience? Make sure everything we're doing should be with the audience in mind. And we can't have them in mind if we don't know who they are. If they're just
Yeah.
employees of our organization, they may as well be robots. We need to, as a profession, as an industry, get to know our audience better. Whether you don't even want to do marketing, I genuinely believe audience research and personas should be in every L&D team, even if I
Yeah.
still
I
need to
mean,
convince you about marketing.
indeed. If you think any business that was building a product would do market research to understand that, and L&D is building a product, and
Mhm.
so that's, you know, that's the truth of it. Or if you've inherited a product that's substandard, then again, assessment needs to be done in terms of how is it failing the audience and what needs to change. Um, I think we find ourselves stuck in these spirals of solution chasing through tech, and I'm not saying that tech doesn't have a role, because it is, like you just basically said to me, I think an LMS is pretty much expected these days, right?
Mm.
Fine, we need a way to serve our content, we need a way to track our compliance, like all of that makes sense, that's fine. So still need to talk to your people, and not assume that you know what's going on in the organizational culture. I've found certainly there's a bit of a skew maybe of people who are quite bought in, you know, senior leadership and stuff are like, this is what our culture is. And then actually the lived experience of a lot of people is really different to what the business thinks it's creating, if that makes sense.
But what blows my mind about that as a concept, because I agree, that's definitely what's happening. But even us as employees, as L&D professionals, we have that lived experience. We've all worked in organisations that say our culture's this, our culture's that, and we're sitting there like, that's not the culture here
No,
at
it's
all.
not.
So why do we just accept it when it comes to what we're doing? Like, oh, the C-suite said this is our culture, so it is. No, like we just need to stop being a bit complacent, if I'm honest. I think that's where it
Yeah.
comes down to. But that sounds a bit mean, doesn't it?
No, it's not. I think, you know, I think it's things that we've said before though. Like we can't just keep on doing the same stuff and expecting different results. Like we've been battling engagement issues for decades. It's getting worse and worse and worse as people's attention spans and having so much readily available is just frying people, is short-circuiting people's brains. Like, you
Hmm.
know, me and Phil were talking about this. Phil's my husband, by the way, because he went to the Metro Center with his our stepdaughter, or my stepdaughter, and she went into HMV, and he was showing her a CD, right? And they were talking
Blast
about,
fast.
yeah, like he was explaining to her how a CD worked, and like, you know, you had to like skip through all the tracks, and obviously you'd have a portable Discman that was like anti-skip. It never was.
Never.
Um, and so, and but she was like, he said her mind was just blown. Like he, she was like, but you have to have like a CD for like every bit of music. And Phil was like, yeah, like everybody used to have loads and
Yeah.
loads of CDs, and I used to have tons of DVDs as well.
Yeah.
And
I used
now
to
it's
have that
just,
thing on the back of my visor on my car that held like numerous CDs
oh,
to save
snappy.
space.
You were really fancy if you had a CD changer in your boot as well.
Oh no,
Oh,
I didn't
you
have one
know,
of them. I wasn't
no,
that
that's
cool.
fine. I wouldn't have known how to install one. I still have just one. So yeah, so I think, you know, that if you think about what is available to us all the time now,
And
we're
the
like
on-demand
really,
demand, like we've
yeah,
given,
exactly.
we all have so much control over what we do now. So really similarly, when I had my niece and nephew a few months ago, they were like, "Oh, can we pause this?" And we were watching Strictly Come Dancing live. And I was like, "No, my telly don't do that because I haven't got Sky or anything like that. Like, I can't pause live TV." And they're like, What do you mean you can't do that?" Like, wow. Like, what do you mean you don't understand that I can't pause this because it's like they
Yeah.
genuinely couldn't wrap their heads around it because they are used to now being completely in control of what they're doing with their time. And that's our
Yeah,
audiences too. Okay, we're talking about what Bella's 14, so 14 and under, but
pretty much.
our audiences are the same. We are in these habits too. Kids just articulate them a little bit better.
Yeah, this is the truth of it, you know. So how do we, you know, the notion of battling engagement is even more imperative than it ever has been, because
Mhm.
we are genuinely in competition with an expectation that things are readily available. And this, really, again, like this is the thing, marketing is so important, but it does always come back to the product, and that's a lot of my discovery always points back to the fact that, there's a lack of perceived relevancy, et cetera, et cetera. So, like I'll go on Netflix and Disney and Prime, and there's so much stuff, and where do I go? And I don't have the energy. I just want someone to tell me what's something good to watch. I'll look at
Yeah.
recommendations and things like that. We use the algorithm. It recommends things based on what you've watched, and you trust that because you kind of get stuck in an echo chamber, I guess.
Yeah.
But, I think that audience centricity stuff is so important. And, like you said, whether you do anything with us or not is moot.
Yeah.
Marketing, I truly believe, is transformative. We have genuine, really measurable results with the clients that will let us benchmark to prove that when executed well, it works. Weird,
Yeah.
There's a whole industry dedicated on growing businesses just through marketing. It works when it's done well. But that's, I guess, the difference, isn't it? When done
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the challenge we face as well. I've had numerous conversations this year. People being like, well, we tried it and it didn't work. And then they tell me what they tried. And, they might have designed one email incredibly well, but that was still just one email one time. It's like, well,
Hmm.
that's not marketing. Um, but I think we're making progress, but it's slow progress. We're trying to shift the mindset that has been in our industry for decades.
Yeah. And then obviously we're riding a very complex economic climate as well.
Mhm.
Um, like you were saying, there seems to be a lot of restructuring in organizations at the moment, massive pause on spend and budgets and things like that. And, certainly I've got other friends that work in the vendor market, and they say that the market's really changing, and what people are buying is changing, but also how much they have to spend is changing as well. So again, it's the question becomes, where do you want to invest? Do you want to invest in more tech and adding more modernization to the product? Or is it actually, you we're happy with our product. How are we
Yeah.
actually going to get people to use it? And I think there's a level of maturity there in terms of where marketing sits, like that hierarchy of needs, right? Like if you
Yeah.
don't have the product to a place that is meeting the needs of your audience, the marketing piece, it will do something, but it won't really move the needle because the product isn't fit for purpose. And so
Yeah.
like that has to be intact first. There's just
Yeah.
no point.
I was
Otherwise, you're
just
going to do marketing and say it doesn't work, and it does.
yeah.
So
I was just thinking there's a podcast episode that I was reviewing the other day. You recorded it. It was actually last year, so it kind of cheats on my answer. But I think it's my favorite podcast we've ever done because it's a podcast you recorded that was saying like learner engagement essentials. Marketing alone isn't enough. You can't get marketing impact and great marketing impact that we talk about if you don't have the product sorted out that doesn't
mm,
meet your audience's needs. Like you have to get those essentials in place. We've never said that you don't. We're just not the experts on that bit. We're not learning professionals in the truest sense. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you what your learning platform should include. You guys are the L&D professionals. I assume, and I say this to all of my delegates on the masterclass, I'm starting with the assumption that your learning offering is phenomenal.
mm,
Starting at that point, because that's what you're the expert in. And then I'm going to help you market that.
yeah.
You need to make sure the product is there. But question for you, what's your favorite podcast of this year?
Oh.
I've got one if
Well,
you want me to start.
yeah, go on then.
I loved how would a marketer do L&D when we
Mm,
sat down and spitballed what we'd do if we suddenly got CLO job. What would we do? Because I think L&D can learn a lot from that.
yeah, absolutely. I think the optics are really different. And I think that, well, as we will have likely said in that podcast, the reality is marketers start from a really different starting point than
Yeah.
L&D does, and the kind of mindset of that just shifts everything and how you kind of would approach even inheriting a function that had legacy content and a
Yeah.
legacy LMS and stuff. Um, I have enjoyed the Sunday surgeries. I know we've only done a couple, but I think because the reason we started doing those is it was from Learning Live, really, wasn't it? And a lot of people came and said, we really enjoy hearing other people's challenges because the one thing that I believe, having done this for a while, is that it feels to me that whilst there are some permutations of this, the majority of L&D's problems are very universal. And it doesn't matter really the size of the function, how many people you have in it. Like, yes, if you have more, you have different problems, but the challenges that, like the core challenges that you're trying to solve, regardless of company size, regardless of industry, regardless of geographic location, is we're trying to build a product that is appropriate for our organization within a certain fixed budget. We're trying to make sure that it accomplishes our learning goals in terms of reskilling, upskilling, also ensuring that people are competent in their current roles. And we're trying to do that in amongst a very, very complex, changeable organizational landscape. Those are universal problems.
Hmm.
I'm not seeing, and so again, whilst there's a huge amount of variation once you go under that, in terms of, okay, I don't have a product yet, so I need to get my product, or actually I've inherited a legacy product, and so I need to revamp it all. But at its core, that's what we're trying to accomplish as function. And, so I think kind of, I suppose from my perspective, why I love doing this podcast is I think we try and tackle those universal problems and almost showcase that, these, you can talk to, I find our industry is very like, when I used to work underside, like, oh, but do you have any retail clients? We want to work with someone who's got retail experience. Why?
Well,
Like,
yeah.
why?
Yeah.
I don't understand because the problem we're trying to solve is pretty similar across the board. And also, if we're gonna do this properly, we're probably gonna do some research into your company and audience anyway. So
Yeah.
whether we've worked with 15 retailers before you or none, our track record should signify that actually this is we know what we're doing. We just
Yeah.
apply those skills in a different context,
Well, and I think a lot of that comes from like, oh, well, our audience are different. So I think retail is one of the big ones, isn't it? And they're like, oh, well, we've got people on the shop floor. Okay, so my most pertinent example for reaching audiences that aren't necessarily at their desk, sorry, pun intended about who I meant to say when I said deck instead of desk, is Lloyd's Register. They're a huge
Hmm.
maritime organisation. They're not retail at all, but they've got people out on ships and in manufacturing plants and stuff like that. That problem's the same. Maritime to retail, same
Yeah.
problem.
Or like you've been working with a very large global bank. You
Yeah,
just kind of finished that project, haven't you?
yeah,
And so I would say, okay, like chips versus banking, pretty different.
pretty different.
You spoke to learners on both sides of
Yeah.
that. They had a lot of research, the bank as well, didn't they?
Hmm.
What was there a significant or notable difference between what the organization was
No,
doing from a learning perspective? Yeah.
no. And actually, what the audience were telling me as well, I went through a lot of discovery with both clients, and I even had the same kind of feedback from both audiences, working incredibly different roles, incredibly different history of learning as well. Because obviously, people at the bank were very university educated kind of people.
Yep.
And actually, a lot of the people I spoke to at Lloyd's Register were actually manual workers, labourers, people that are out doing things.
Sure.
And actually, both audiences were still telling me, oh, I can't wait for learning to go back to normal. I can't wait to be back in the classroom. I don't feel like digital learning is right for me. I was getting the same answers from both of them, very distinct audiences, but actually, their emotional drivers, their wants and their needs and their pain points, very, very similar.
Mm. Because I think at its core, we're not building products that are meeting the needs of our people, and most of our issues spur from those issues, and then we're not doing anything to get people engaged with the product once we do have something that's viable. We're basically trying to push a product that's not fit for purpose in a ham-handed way, and are bewildered why it doesn't work. And it's because we're not really doing either aspect correctly. We're not doing the product side well, and we're not doing the marketing side well. So it becomes this kind of challenging snake eating its tail thing. Is like, where do we stop and restart?
And
So I guess sorry, I know you have a thought you wanted to add there.
yeah, I've just had like a bit of a sudden thought come to my mind. When we say marketing can't solve all the problems, we mean that in a sense of marketing will help you, it will grab the attention, but then we can't then convince someone that they've had a great learning experience if they haven't. And the example that's just come to my mind, yesterday morning, I've got a 9-year-old nephew who really wants to go and cosplay at Comic-Con next year. And he wants to go as Goku from Dragon Ball Z. So I'm searching for a cosplay outfit for Goku. And I found this website, and the website looked impeccable, but I'd never heard of it before. They had the right product, seemingly, the right size, website looked really slick. So I was like, okay, I think we can trust this, but I've never heard of them before. So I quickly did a Google search, and they were so bad, they've got a warning on their Trustpilot account being like, don't order from this company. Instantly didn't order from them. That happens when, if we create you or you create phenomenal marketing for your learning experience, and then someone's had a really bad experience, they will tell their colleagues that was useless. It was a waste of my time. No
Yeah.
amount of marketing is going to override that. If they then rock up, if they go, okay, I will make the effort, like all these people that left Trustpilot reviews did, I will go to the learning, and then they have a bad experience, they're going to become the people that are telling people it's bad. You're going to have to do a lot of work to win those people back over. So create phenomenal learning, but if the product ain't there, if the experience isn't right, no amount of marketing is going to fix that.
No, and I mean, there is people are more vocal about negative experiences than positive ones. So, like, things like Trustpilot, TripAdvisor, they're it sometimes is a bit of a skewed view, because I
Yeah.
think people are more likely to go and complain than write about the amazing time that they had. So again, bear that in mind. Like, negative experiences spread like wildfire, and they do a lot of damage. So again, if you're gonna this is why we say don't put the horse before the cart. You can't do
Yeah.
marketing if there's no point in investing in marketing if your product isn't going to work for the audience. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And we've got a client that I've got no shame in admitting. And look, I spoke to them in September, and they're like, we are coming back, I promise. But we've done all the discovery work. And they said, sugar, our product ain't right. The learning experience isn't there. We need to rip it all up and start again. And they're literally done that. Like, they've restructured their team. They've got a new platform. They're redoing all the content. They're making sure it's actually fit for the audiences, not only the audience's wants and needs, but actually fit for purpose. So for the roles that they're doing and everything like that. And then they're going to think about the marketing. And I'm not even upset. It makes me so happy that you need to get that stuff right before marketing is going to work incredibly well for you.
yeah, absolutely. So look, I'm conscious of time, and I also don't know if you can hear Ellie screaming downstairs.
Oh,
So
no, I can't hear
she's a
her,
bit out
but
of sorts, bless her.
this is
Well, I'm glad you can't hear her.
part of your
Um,
life moment, isn't it, Ash?
it is, but I'm going to a co-working space next year so that I can have a slight department from that, because it is difficult.
Yeah.
Like, as a mum, your body physically reacts to the baby cry, and it's ridiculous. So I one final kind of thing for me is, I guess, well, two things. We obviously have quite a lot of plans for 2025. I mean, it's an exciting year. I don't know. Do you think we'll do some announcements in January, I think,
Yeah.
maybe, about some of the things
Good
that
New
we're
Year
we've
treat
got
for you
in
all.
the works. But I think it's been an interesting year. I always find, like, L&D is a really reliable function in a lot of ways. We are quite focal to a lot of organizations. But if we're not careful, our budgets will continue to get cut. And, I think really that proving value piece and delivering impact that is beyond the completions and measurement, um, that's where I think marketing really plays a role. Because if you're not, having that great product is good, but if people aren't going to use it, that's a problem too. So if your focus is genuinely on how do I deliver better value to my business through learning, marketing has to play a role in that. If your focus is actually just getting bums on seats and completions and things like that, then marketing might not matter so much to you because your priorities are different. If you're pretty much mandatory training and things like that, yeah, you can, maybe do some, but I would ask why. If it's
Yeah.
mandatory, people have to do it. So it's kind of a redundant process, really. Um, what's your kind of one thought about, I guess, so if you're going to tell people to do like one thing when it came to marketing next year, what would you say it would be?
I want to say all of it. No, I think, and I think I've already said it in this episode. This is why we shouldn't have chats before we record a podcast, Ash, because I can't remember
Yeah.
if I said it in the episode or not. Understanding the audience, do that research piece, do that personas piece. That is the launch pad and the backbone of great marketing for learning, but also great learning, in my opinion. You've
Hmm.
got to know your audience. So that if you're going to do one thing next year, do that piece. Because as soon as you've got a clearer picture of your audience in your mind, you're going to start behaving differently. You're going to start approaching them differently and talking to them differently. So yeah, I think the personas and the research piece, they go hand in hand. I think that's my answer. What about you, Ash?
Um, so I think I would even drill down further than that and almost kind of say, have be more commercially focused as a learning functions. And we talk about that, we've talked about that as like a skill, haven't we? And it's
Yeah.
mentioned again in our masterclass as part of the marketing mindset. But I think that when I really distill down what differentiates marketers from L&D, when our goals are very similar, trying to get people to know about things they don't know about yet and do things they don't necessarily want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So having a commercial focus is actually, is what I'm doing going to generate value? Is the effort I'm going to push out going to bring anything back? What's the ROI of this? Even if the investment is just your time and resource.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we always have that mindset. I don't think we always think about the deficit that we create by just chasing our tails, creating tons of learning content that's being requested for across the business. So, again, having a clear learning strategy that's really aligned to a business's goals and objectives
Yeah.
for the year and maybe even 3 to 5 years as well. I think that that allows us to have a much more commercial lens on what we do, i.e., we can push back because actually that's not going to add value. It doesn't align with
Yeah.
our strategy and it doesn't align with the business strategy. So I respect what you're saying, but no. So, that for me, I think is probably one of the bigger pieces of the pie
Yeah.
is yes, the marketing mindset piece, but that's one of the biggest things for me is like, ask yourself, is this going to add value? Is this going to
Yeah.
deliver impact? Because if it's not, why are you doing it? And if you don't know the answer, then bloody hell, go find out because
Yeah.
what's the point in doing things if you don't know if they were successful or not, which is a constant frustration of mine. Like, how do you know it worked? Oh, what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It looked pretty.
okay. But if you need to be able to understand what you're doing and whether it's working, and then joining the dots back to the business to say, actually, this is working, and here is what it's delivering. You want better budgets, you want bigger budgets, you want to have money to invest in things that feel superfluous, like
Yeah.
marketing, then, at the end of the day, you've got to be proving value as a function first.
Yeah. And I think just to add to that, it comes back to something that came up in the debate at Ellen Connect. We asked the room, I'd say there's probably like, what, 40 people in that room? We asked the room how many of those L&D professionals in the room knew what their business strategy and goals was for the next year, whatever that was, and 2 people put their hands up. So
Yes,
let's start at that
scary.
point, guys. Work out why is your business existing? What is the goal? What is the purpose? What's the objective? Because if you don't know that, you can't prove value. You can't be commercially savvy, and your research piece will be completely pointless if you don't know what you're working towards. So
Yeah, and you also don't have that balance. So, like, if you're doing the research and you're speaking to your employees, like, that's really great. But you need to balance that with some context from the wider organization. So, like, oh, there's like constant change in the organization, but why? What's going on? If you're speaking to C-suite senior leadership, oh, well, actually, the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to be focusing very heavily on M&A, which means we're going to have even more change. Right? How can we develop change readiness in our employees? How can we develop resilience? How can we develop adaptability? These agility, these are really important things. So if you have an idea of where the business is changing and what the business is trying to accomplish and achieve, that can also add color and flavor to your learning strategy. Because if
yeah.
you if like that's M&A is a really different view than, oh, we're just going to grow the business and bring more people on board. Fuck, okay, invest in your onboarding and developing leadership skills, things like that. But what's the priority for the business and how does learning sit within that?
But I think my experience, a lot of people don't have that critical thinking to do exactly what you just did there. Their research will say the audience are saying there's too much change and I don't like it. And they go, oh, but we can't fix that. They don't do that piece that you literally just did there instinctively of, okay, well, they don't like this change that is happening and we can't stop this change happening because it is part of our business plan and our business objectives. So we now need to make them ready or more accepting of change or have the agility and all of that. Oftentimes when I talk to N&D professionals, they're like, oh, but we can't fix all of those problems. I'm not saying you're going to take the problem away. I'm not saying you're going to magically wipe them out. But there's a reason that on the VPC we have a pain reliever, not a pain eraser. Like we can't
Hmm.
get rid of all the problems, but we can help move that needle. And I think there is a bit of a lack of critical thinking sometimes between these are the challenges we've got in the business. This is what we can do. Because
Yeah,
sometimes we'll
I
just sit
totally
there
agree.
and go, nah, not my problem. I can't change the fact there's change, so I'm not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, it's that performance consulting piece, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
really understanding what's important to the business and how skills fit within that. So professional resilience is probably crucial no matter what role you're doing across any organization. But the truth of the matter is your business is on its own unique journey. It's like when I've worked in-house, and I've worked in marketing functions where we wouldn't have a marketing strategy. And it's
Yeah.
very frustrating because you don't really know what your purpose is or what you're doing. Like, oh, we'll get more leads. But I don't know what that means. Like, like I get at its truest sense of the word, like you want me to generate more customers for the business, but am I focusing
Which
on
ones?
brand? Am I
Yeah.
focusing on our website? Am I building out, like our social media profiles? Like, I need to know what that looks like and how that kind of waters down into something that is tactics rather than
Mm.
strategy. And we're not really doing that as learning functions a lot of the time. We're not taking business strategy and turning it into learning strategy and then turning it into learning tactics. And,
Yeah.
probably a different podcast episode for that.
I
But
think
look,
that
I
is.
am I am conscious that we are at time pretty
Yep.
much. So just so you guys know, this is going to be the last podcast of December because, well, it's Christmas and we're just not doing anymore. That's
Yeah.
the truth.
And I've got my
I don't
Christmas
want to.
t-shirt on already.
Oh yeah, she wore a holiday armadillo t-shirt, which is just incredible.
If you know, you know.
I'm in a red jumper. It's not Christmassy, but it's
It looks
festive.
festive.
Yes, from what you can see, it does look very festive. So yes, we will be back in January with some announcements, some news, and yeah, I hope you guys have like a wonderful festive period. Thanks for being on the Marketing for Learning journey with us. We know we have a lot of very loyal listeners here. We always appreciate it when you indulge us in these more kind of ramblings.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, it's not so like tactical, but it is just that recap of,
Yeah.
nothing like this is the way that it is really. So yeah, so as always, Han, always a pleasure. And
Likewise.
I will see you. Well, I'll
In the
probably
new
see you
year.
tomorrow, but
No,
I'll
yeah.
see you.
But no, but for the purpose of the podcast, Ash, see you in January.
Yes, see you in January. You have a phenomenal Christmas and New Year. Yes.
Yeah, you too. Have a
I will. I can
wonderful
drink
Christmas.
this year.
Oh, that's
Thumbs
exciting.
up.
Right, we'll see you all in January, guys.
Oh, yeah. Bye.
Bye.